In this video, we're going to go over the Export Data tab and how to export all of your build data. And by build data, I mean skin clusters, blend shapes. In the UI, you can filter out different data types. So this is all the data types that are available to export and import. We have anim shaders, attribute values, so whatever values you've changed in certain attributes, blend shapes, clusters, connections, constraints, delta mushes, matrix constraints, nonlinears, pose interpolators, proximity wraps, centrifuge keys, skin clusters, any user-defined attributes that you created. You can export that creation data and those attributes will be recreated. Wires and wraps. So in the UI, you have two lists. Your nodes list, which is on the left side, and then whatever deformers and data is associated with that node or geometry or transform node. So to use this UI, you don't have to, but you can set filters if your list is going to end up being too long. For now, I'm going to leave this all data types on. You can grab individual nodes and list selected nodes, click on it, and then you'll see all of the deformers that are associated with it and anim shaders. For now, I'm going to turn off anim shaders because I don't want to see them. So you select your geo or you select your node in the left list, then you select which deformers you want to export, and I highly recommend clicking fix deformer names or right-clicking and fix all deformer node names, because it'll name your deformer based off of the piece of geo that it's attached to, and it'll export it with that name on disk. So you can list single nodes, or you can list several nodes at once, but you can also right-click and say list my entire model hierarchy. So this is every piece of geometry and group node that exists in the model hierarchy. And it looks for basically whatever is under the model group. You can double click, select everything, double click everything on this side, fix deformer names, and export your data. Now on disk, it takes a minute to write out heavy skin clusters, because it'll grab, not only does it grab the skin cluster creation info, so here you have, in the script editor, it'll give you a printout of where it's saved every single type of, every single deformer that you exported. And it will be under the rig build folder, data IO, then the rig variant name, so in this case it's primary, and then in the deformer type folder. So let's take a quick look at that on disk. So we've got under rig build, we've got data IO primary, and then we have all of our blend shapes, all of our delta mushes, and all of our skin clusters. Now, when you export a deformer that is attached to a piece of geometry, you will get what the tool does is it writes out the mesh creation info, and that is required so that we can later import these deformers based off of closest point, UV space, or vertex ID. And we'll get more into that when we go to the load data tab over here. So aside from exporting all the deformers and data that are in this deformers and data list, you can also do certain things down here, like if you export control values, it will grab everything in the scene that's in your rig that is a control and write out whatever values you've set. So if IK is set to 1 instead of 0, it'll write those out and load those back in later on in this load attribute values data step of the build. You can also export the deformation order for whatever nodes are listed, you have highlighted in the nodes field. So let's say my model, you can also right click and say select the node. So let's say this piece of geometry has a delta mush, a skin cluster, and a blend shape, and I've rearranged the order of deformations. You can export that deformation order, and it'll be written out to your data IO folder as well. The other thing you can do is export keyable attribute values. So if you've locked and hidden any attributes, like you don't want the rotates or the scales on a certain control, this will grab all of the controls in the scene and write out that locked and keyable attribute data for you. And that gets all loaded in under in this step, load and lock keyable attributes data. So that is the export data tab.